Donald Trump and his despicable regime were just frozen out of a major international meeting in Yerevan, Armenia. It was a historic meeting of the European political community. About 40 countries had their representatives attend, and it was the first time this European political community meeting was held in Yerevan, Armenia, which was once thought of as a satellite of Russia, but it's now turning closer and closer to Europe as the United States is turning closer and closer to Putin, as Donald Trump is a Putin bootlicker. Now, this European political community meeting was historic in a lot of ways. It had Ukrainian President Zelensky speaking, and Ukraine's representation there made a very powerful statement, but it also invited a non-European leader who's essentially become a de facto leader of Europe, Prime Minister Carney. This is Donald Trump's worst nightmare. The entire world freezing Donald Trump out of critical meetings as Europe is now organizing what its position will be like in a new world order, where the United States is no longer the leader of the post-World War II order, as Donald Trump has utterly weakened the United States' standing in the world. Now, as I watched the hours and hours of proceedings that were taking place at this European political community meeting, one thing that struck me was the constant refrain of reliability, predictability, multilateralism, cooperation, respect of sovereignty, and the fact that all of these nations were talking about how Europe can become stronger together and how Europe can project in a very unstable world caused by Donald Trump's complete unpredictability, unreliability, fascism, and dangerousness. How Europe becomes a reliable partner throughout the world and projects strength. How Europe projects strength to Asian partners. How Europe projects strength in the Middle East, with Canada, by the way, joining Europe. How Europe projects strength and cooperation in all of these areas, including Africa, Central America, South America, and how Europe speaks with one voice powerfully to stand up to authoritarians like Putin and Donald Trump. Also, the European leaders gave a shout-out to Nikol Pashinyan, the Prime Minister of Armenia, for organizing this historic event. And you see all of these European world leaders, all you, Prime Minister Carney. No representative of the U.S. to be seen there, and the constant theme is a weakened U.S., a stronger Europe. So, let me take you in and show you what went down, which is really, if you watch what was taking place, is one of Donald Trump's worst nightmares come to life. You have Prime Minister Carney speaking at this event. Here's what Prime Minister Carney said about how it's his strong personal view that as the international order will be rebuilt, it will be rebuilt out of Europe. Let's play this clip. It's my strong personal view that as the international order will be rebuilt, but it will be rebuilt out of Europe, and so I am very appreciative of the symbolism of this invitation. Thank you. Now, more from Prime Minister Carney here on Canada-EU relations. Let's play this clip. We view ourselves as highly complementary to your economic and security goals. That's demonstrated through the work we're doing with the presidencies on the new EU-Canada Strategic Partnership of the Future. Building deeper relationships from digital to defense, supply chains to security. We're honored to be the first non-European country as part of the EU SAFE initiative. We would observe that in the last year, we have struck $18 billion worth of critical minerals deals across 20 of the world's leading critical minerals. The way to look at this is we are warehousing these to look for government-to-government deals with our close partners, and under the rubric of the G7, first and foremost, but then more broadly we're working with European partners across the technology stack from hardware, cloud infrastructure, artificial intelligence, and space. And as we'll discuss later, we are an energy superpower, third largest oil producer, fourth largest natural gas, largest hydro renewable base. We're committed to addressing climate change while providing reliable, affordable energy to our citizens and partners. In closing, we're here because of your invitation. Again, thank you for that. But we're here because of the moral and security imperatives of our cooperation in the Caucasus, in the Baltics, in Ukraine, across Europe, and also because of the immense potential for our partnerships to build a better, more prosperous, sustainable, and just world for our citizens. And I'll close with this. Now, more from Prime Minister Carney here about how we are not destined to submit to a more transactional, insular, brutal world. And he's clearly talking about Donald Trump here. Let's play it now. We have to actively take on the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. We know nostalgia is not a strategy, but we don't think that we're destined to submit to a more transactional, insular, and brutal world. And gatherings such as these point to a better way forward. Prime Minister Carney then talks about the world undergoing a rupture across several dimensions and how Europe needs to stick together. Canada and Europe united. Play this clip. The world is undergoing a rupture across several dimensions in technology, in energy, in commerce, and geopolitics. Integration is being used as a weapon by some, and the rules are not constraining the hegemons. And more from Prime Minister Carney here about how it is fitting that Canada is the only non-European nation representative. What an honor represented there, and what an honor it is for Canada. Let's play this clip. I'd like to say thank you again for the invitation. I do think that it is fitting that Canada is the first non-European country to join this forum, as we are the most European of non-European countries. We share a triple alignment of history, of values, and trust. Our histories are deeply intertwined. I refer back to the water analogy that we just witnessed with the opening ceremony, but it's personified by tens of millions of Canadians of European descent, including more than 60,000 Armenians. Our shared values are born of that common history: freedom, rule of law, democracy, pluralism. And these values shape our relationships, determine our priorities, and point to our common future. Canada has consistently stood up for these values, including in recent years. From our membership of the Coalition of the Willing, as one of the largest per capita contributors to Ukraine, to our leadership of the NATO Brigade in Latvia, our intensifying cooperation with the Nordic countries, UK, and Germany on Arctic security, and our role as the only non-European participant in the European mission in Armenia. We're demonstrating not just the strength of our values in defending the rules-based international order, as you rightly mentioned, Antonio, but also the value of our strength. And then afterwards, Prime Minister Carney gave a brief press conference, and here's what he said about the last 12 months. Let's play it. A lot's happened in the last 12 months, and some of it we saw coming. More of it has occurred, and the importance of alliances with reliable partners, deepening those alliances, has become ever more so. And now I want to highlight this breaking news story just in from the New York Times. A major global summit is happening right now. Nearly 60 countries meeting in Colombia to figure out how to phase out fossil fuels. But here's the headline. The United States was not even invited. This comes as the world is dealing with what experts are calling one of the biggest energy crises in history, fueled in large part by the ongoing U.S. war in Iran. Countries right now are facing shortages, rising prices, even rationing fuel. And instead of leading the transition to clean energy, the United States has pulled back, reversing course on climate commitments and pushing more oil and gas. So what you're seeing now is the rest of the world trying to move forward without the United States, building what they're calling a coalition of the willing to accelerate the shift to renewable energy. This is a pivotal moment. Climate policy, global economics, national security, it's all colliding right now. Okay. Well, now it's your turn to make noise. What do you think of this story? Our climate reports in general, everything we're covering here. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll be reading them. Okay, Ben, back to you. Now I'll show you the moment where Prime Minister Carney met with Ukrainian President Zelensky at this summit. It was powerful indeed, as these world leaders exchanged pleasantries but talked about standing united. Canada, Europe, Ukraine united. As Donald Trump weakens the United States, weakens America's standing in the world, betrays Ukraine, Canada, Ukraine, and Europe rise, leading the free world. Let's play it. That's good. It was going much. Fantastic. Hi. Hello. Hi. Okay. Shall I pretend to be the host? Yes. Yeah. Fantastic. It's great to host in Europe, the hero not just of Ukraine, but Europe and the world. Dear Vladimir, again, you have all of Canada behind you, standing with the people of Ukraine. We are pleased that today we were able to add to our commitment, and we will continue to work and find ways to work together to strengthen your struggle and to ensure peace when it comes. And it will come that it works and brings the prosperity that the people of Ukraine deserve. Thank you very much, your Prime Minister. So I'm happy that we have such strong relations between our countries and between both of us. So, yeah, and we are thankful for your decision. You told me about your decision, how to strengthen us, and thank you for this. And of course, I think today's meeting of our group, morning meeting, was very important. Of course, we have to push Putin to the peace, to diplomacy. But when he will be ready, of course, but we have to know that we are not alone. And I'm happy that we not only know, we feel it because of the support of our friends. We are thankful to Canadian friends, to all the people for such strong support. Then you have French President Emmanuel Macron at this conference, again reiterating the predictability of France and Europe, and how France and Europe is indeed willing to work with Iran cooperatively, not to have any views that all of a sudden things are going to be great, not to neglect the past and the dangers and the threat posed by Iran. But then Macron saying, we're not at war with Iran. The U.S. and Netanyahu are doing their thing. So we think from our position we will be a predictable, reliable negotiator and someone who can get things done. Actually, here, play this clip. Democracy, rule-based order, respect of an open trade and free trade. Believing in climate change through innovation and a reasonable approach creates a lot of links amongst us, and our predictability in order to deliver this agenda is a big advantage vis-a-vis a lot of non-European players. When I look at the Gulf, when I look at Asian countries, when I look at Latin America or Africa, they just want to have predictable partners they can disagree with. Sometimes our interests will not be aligned, but as long as we deliver our agenda, being predictable makes sense. If we go to our most straight, I think we have a very important role to play. A lot of us were around this VTC, we co-organized with Kay, and Georgia was with us in Paris with Fez, and we had a lot of Asian countries, a lot of African countries, Gulf countries, and it was very impressive to see that everybody was aligned. And I think the role we can play is precisely, obviously we are trusted by the U.S., but we are respected and trusted by the Iranian. We are not naive vis-a-vis Iranian, but we are not at war with them, which creates a context where we can be this all together. We can provide, I would say, services from diplomatic, military, and economic and financial sides in order to facilitate a free reopening of almost straight. And this is exactly the strategy we are preparing. The pre-publication work was made last week in London. So now we are in a situation clearly to facilitate such a reopening, which puts us in this situation to be this reliable partner and to open this free road. So this is, I really believe, one of the assets we have. But beyond that, I really believe that our interest is to decrease the tensions in a lot of situations, to remain coordinated in full solidarity. Ukraine is by far the hottest topic, but to work all together on this agenda of strategic autonomy. And by the way, I think the work made during the past few years by Nikol on Armenia is very impressive, let's be honest. I mean, 8 years ago, nobody would come here. And the fact that you have so many first visits in your country is a good signal. Because 8 years ago, this country was seen by a lot of countries around the table as a sort of de facto satellite of Russia. Nikol organized his Velvet Revolution and decided to de-risk his country from Russia, and he's still attacked on a daily basis because of that. And the fact that he decided both peace in Europe is a very strong signal. And the resistance war in Ukraine, the Armenian strategy, what is done in Moldova, plus what is done by a lot of countries around the table, is as well the fact that, as Europeans, we decided during the past few years to have a collective wake-up call and not to be dependent on any big power. And this is as well one of the preconditions of this strategic autonomy. And then Zelensky brought the house down with his speech. Zelensky acknowledged the importance of Canada being at this European summit. Zelensky talked about how weak Russia is, despite Donald Trump doing all he can to help Russia. Russia has never been weaker. Zelensky talks about the shared values of Ukraine, of Europe, of Canada, and how Ukraine not only holds its own, but Ukraine is contributing significantly to the defense of Europe. Ukraine selling its drone and anti-drone technologies and its intelligence services to Europe as it's doing, throughout the Middle East. And Zelensky is saying, look, we know where Donald Trump and America stands. We know what they are. That's why it's more important than ever for Europe, Ukraine, Canada together to speak with one powerful voice. Watch as Zelensky brings the house down. Let's play this clip. And so many countries are represented here today. It matters that Armenia stands here with all Europeans. And for the first time in 24 years, by the way, a visit by the President of Ukraine. This means a lot, and it shows the scale of our unity, all those who value life. And I agree with Antonio, absolutely. I'm glad Mark Carney is with us, and it's time to turn our shared values with Canada into more joint opportunities for Canada and Europe. Dear friends, the challenges are clear, absolutely. First, we all see it. The war in Iran remains unresolved, and it could cause instability for a long time. And it may raise the cost of living in all our countries these years, and this could lead to major political shifts. So first of all, our energy and security cooperation needs to be real cooperation, and we need to help each other prepare for winter and deal with energy challenges. And we should also push for a long-term solution for the Strait of Hormuz and for the people of Iran. Second, Russia's war against Ukraine and Europe continues just as hard as before. And this summer will be a moment when Putin decides what to do next. Expand the war or move to diplomacy, and we must push him toward diplomacy. Russia has announced a May 9 parade in Moscow without military equipment. If that happens, it will be the first time in many, many years they cannot afford military equipment, and they fear drones may buzz over Red Square. This is telling. It shows they are not strong now. So we must keep the pressure by sanctions on them, and I thank you for the 20 sanctions package. I'm thankful to all the leaders, to EU Antonio. Thanks very much. and especially those sanctions against Russian oil, the military industry, and Russian banks. We must continue this pressure. We must move Russia to diplomacy. Please oppose any ideas to ease sanctions. This is important. And thank you also to those who are fighting against Russia's shadow oil fleet. Third, as long as this war continues, strong support for Ukraine must continue. Every support package matters, especially air defense. Every contribution to the Pearl program matters, and we need new Pearl packages this year, this May. This helps us defend against the ballistic threats, and I believe Europe should be able to produce everything it needs to defend against everything, all the ballistic attacks and all other weapons on its own. We offer a contribution to Europe's defense, our drone deals. They bring countries together, and we need strong protection across Europe from drones and all attacks, potential attacks, in the air, at sea, and on land. Drone deals mean joint work, joint production, shared protection. Let's move forward on this. And one more thing, we need to focus on what we will do if Russia does not end this war. We need continued pressure, and we need peace. And of course, it's number one. We need to find a workable diplomatic format, and Europe must be at the table in any talks. And we are in contact with the United States, and we understand their views and positions. But it would be good to develop one common European voice for talks with Russians. Thank you. Well, there you have it, folks. What a summit indeed. Donald Trump frozen out. Bye-bye. And you see moral leader, world leaders speaking with moral clarity, with intelligence, with unity, with reliability, with predictability. It's all right there, folks. Thanks so much for watching. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. We appreciate you so much. You want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at midasplus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at midasplus.com.